As comedians, we are fortunate to be able to talk about humor and change, obviously because we do a lot of humor, but also because we're in change situations every single week. I'm from different audience, different organization, different industry, different state, and a lot of times I have to use humor to change the energy to get people in the mood for humor. Like this is set up great, you guys are set up very nicely, but a lot of times people think comedy can work anywhere, all right? And they will just send us out in weird situations, and we have to use humor to change the energy to get the people in the mood for humor. One time I had to go up to do comedy. It was at a healthcare event. They were giving out their service awards, for years of service, and they gave out 292 service pins. And people walked to the stage, got their pin, walked back. 292. Then they set me up there at about 11 o'clock at night, all right? And I got on stage, I said, I got my 5-year pin just sitting here. Weird situations they put us up on. They think comedy goes anywhere. Twice, I'm not making this up, twice I've been sent up after they read off the list of people in the organization who died. Does anyone think this is a good idea, huh? Come on, let's have some comedy now. One time they actually did a very solemn candle lighting ceremony. They lit a candle for every person who had passed away, and then they sent me out. I know, I looked over there, I said, we got some candles left. I don't think some of y'all were supposed to be here this week. Anyone get a funny look at registration? Bob, is that you? And what I did in that situation, and my first tip for using humor in a change situation to change the energy, is I got the big elephant out on the table. You have to get the big elephant out on the table. What's going on in the room that is on everyone's mind, right? If you're sitting down to a meeting and you've just had budget cuts or layoffs and you're not going to address it, guess what? Everyone sitting there is thinking about that. You got to at least say something in order to get people to move on, and you can do that with humor. As comedians, we call it addressing what people see first. As a comedian, if you're really tall or you're really fat or you have a noticeable disability or you look like a famous person, you have to go on stage and say something about that right away and then move on, or otherwise people won't get over it. A friend of mine has muscular dystrophy. He doesn't have an act about muscular dystrophy, but he has one joke he kicks off with, because otherwise people will sit in the chair the whole time going, does he know he has muscular dystrophy? Maybe I should tell him. Why is he sitting like that? They won't get over it. Well, the same with you. If you're dealing with a big change situation, even if you're not going to discuss it at length, you need to at least get it out on the table and get the big elephant out on the table. Now, how do you do that? Comedians, we have a quick trick. We put ourselves in the other person's shoes and say what their sarcastic voice is thinking. Put yourself in the other. That's where the humor is, right there. Their sarcastic voice. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Say what their sarcastic voice is thinking. The fastest way to get the humor. What are these people thinking about the candle lighting ceremony they just had? We all have a sarcastic voice in our head, don't we? Not just comedians. The first time you were ever disciplined by mom and dad, you had a comeback, didn't you? You just didn't say it because you wanted to live, right? Yeah. Kids actually do this all the time, too. They always kind of kick in what we're thinking, right? They blurt out what we're thinking because they don't have those filters. I went to dinner with my brother and his wife and their 3 boys to a Mexican restaurant. My 12-year-old nephew, Patrick, ordered the Fiesta platter, which was the size of Mexico. Okay, it's huge, all right? The check came, and I grabbed the check, and my brother's trying to get the check, and we're doing that check tussle thing. After a couple of minutes, Patrick blurts out, Dad, let her have it. We don't know how much this thing cost. He said, well, we're thinking, right? The 12-year-old ordered the $50 platter. He's going to eat 2 bites of it. So that's a quick way. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Say what their sarcastic voice is thinking. You can practice this all the time, too. You don't have to wait for a stressful change situation. You can practice when you're out in public and you're at the bank and the teller's had a hard customer. Go up to and kick off with something funny about what she's thinking. Might kick off the conversation well, and she won't mess up your transaction. Or you call customer service for the computer problems, and you get the guy over in India. We make fun of them. I bet they're making fun of us, right? What do you think he's thinking after 8 hours of our silly questions, huh? Yeah, maybe if you kick it off with something funny about what he's thinking, he won't tell you to reboot your computer. Like you never thought of that one. And that's my sarcastic voice. Don't use your sarcastic voice, all right? It doesn't work out, right? Does it? It just comes off bitter if you use yours. I was flying cross country to Baltimore one day, and I got off the plane. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was hungry. I went up to one of those grab-and-go food places. I grabbed a banana. And, all I had was a 20 because I figured they'd been open all day. They probably got change. Hand the woman a 20. She looks at me, looks at the 20, looks back at me and goes, as snarly as she can. She goes, what do you think I'm going to do with that? Now, my sarcastic voice had an idea. But when it cost $20 and the banana wasn't worth it. I'm not making this up. Her name tag, her name was Joy. And I'm talking about tense, not hostile situations. You know, don't use humor if it's hostile when people hate you. But if there's tension, you're just trying to get people to relax. A lot of people are afraid to use humor because they think it has to be belly laugh, kick or funny. You're just trying to get people to laugh, change focus, relax a little bit, right? And don't use it again if you're angry or something that doesn't work so well. Now, sometimes you can't just kick off with what people are thinking. You can't just blurt it out like my nephew did. Comedians, we have a couple tricks, all right? The first big trick we use, we'll do a survey, quick survey. How many people think? Blah, blah, blah. And it clears the air and gets people to move on. I've had to use the quick survey method a lot when I'm brought up after things that I don't think are good intro for comedy. One time I had there was a CEO, it was right after the Super Bowl, and there was a CEO who, I guess he spent his whole Super Bowl Sunday watching the game and making an analogy between life and the Super Bowl. And then he went out there and he tried to motivate the troops, you know, and he did this whole horrible analogy between, you know, we're on the 50-yard line and we're trying to get to the end zone, and people were just bored, and he was bombing, all right, bombing and putting a very bad energy around the room. So he knew he was bombing, so he ran off and pulled me out there, you know. So I used the quick survey method to change the energy. I went out and I said, hey, quick survey, how many people hope next year during the Super Bowl Bill does like the rest of us and just drinks a beer? I had to use a quick survey method at a hospice once. I was doing a fundraiser for a hospice. People paid a lot of money to get there, and the nun went out ahead of me and started shaking people down for more money, right? Now, I'm not Catholic, but I know you can't make fun of the nun, right? And she went out and she said, you know, we're halfway through building the new wing on the hospice, and we are $5 million short. Basically, pony up everybody. And then she dragged me out there, you know. So I went out and I used a survey method. I went out and I said, you know, Sister Mary just told us we're halfway through building the new wing on the hospice, and we are $5 million short. Quick survey, how many people think we should not tell that to the construction crew? It kind of changes the energy, gets people to laugh a little bit, and moves on. You've addressed the subject, you've moved on. So quick survey method, great way to do it. A second way comedians do